Picture this. It's a bright sunny day, but you wake up feeling like you're in the middle of a thunderstorm. Not just any storm, the kind that makes you question why you even bothered getting out of bed. But here's the kicker. This storm is happening inside your head, and nobody else can see it. So you just carry on with your day like everything's fine. Spoiler alert, everything is not fine. What you're dealing with is called depression, and it's here to crash the party. Unlike sadness, which comes and goes like a temporary rain shower, depression is that annoying guest who shows up uninvited and stays way past their welcome. Like, isn't it time for you to go? But no, depression plants itself in your life, and before you know it, it's eating all your snacks and taking over your Netflix account. The good news? You're about to learn how to kick this unwanted guest to the curb. Let's dive into the wonderful world of depression, shall we? Sadness is like that one friend who shows up when things go wrong. After a breakup, when you get a rejection letter, or when your favorite show gets canceled. Again, it's temporary, it's manageable, and it's something we've all dealt with. But depression? Oh no. Depression isn't satisfied with just a brief visit. It's the ultimate shapeshifter, wearing the mask of sadness while secretly planning to move in permanently. It's like, hey, I'll just crash on your couch for a while, and suddenly it's redecorating your entire mental space without asking. So how do you tell the difference between a bad mood and the full-blown nightmare that is depression? Well, sadness has a clear cause and it goes away after a while. Depression, on the other hand, sticks around like that one stain on your favorite shirt that no amount of scrubbing can get out. If you've been feeling low for what feels like forever, you might be dealing with more than just a bad week. Sorry, but this isn't a passing mood. It's the emotional equivalent of quicksand. Alright, let's get into the nitty-gritty of depression's greatest hits. If depression were an artist, its top charting singles would include Persistent Sadness. Think of it like a never-ending playlist of the saddest songs ever. You're not just feeling down for a couple of days. This is weeks, months, or even years of feeling like nothing will ever be okay again. Loss of interest. Remember that hobby you loved? Or that show you couldn't wait to binge watch? Yeah, depression will make sure you couldn't care less about any of it. Fun, right? Fatigue. And I don't mean I stayed up too late scrolling on my phone tired. I'm talking about the kind of exhaustion where getting out of bed feels like completing a triathlon. Who needs the gym when just showering feels like an Olympic event? Sleep disturbances. Either you're up at 3 a.m. having deep philosophical discussions with the ceiling, or you're sleeping 14 hours a day because your bed is now your only safe haven. There's no in between. Appetite changes. Suddenly your eating habits either resemble a squirrel preparing for winter, hello, comfort carbs, or you're basically fasting because you've lost all interest in food. Awesome, right? Concentration problems. Good luck focusing on anything. Reading? Forget it. Watching TV? Nah. Your brain's decided to turn into a static-filled radio station. Physical symptoms. Oh yeah, depression can even mess with your body. Headaches, stomach problems, random aches. It's like your mind said, hey, let's make this suck even more by adding some physical pain into the mix. But the scariest part? Thoughts of death or suicide. It's like depression is saying, hey, wouldn't it be easier if none of this mattered anymore? This is when depression goes from being an annoying guest to a dangerous intruder. If you're feeling this way, it's time to sound the alarm and get help, because this is where things get serious. So, what's behind this lovely little mental joyride we call depression? It's like a tangled web of genetics, biology, and life being, well, life. Let's break it down. First, there's genetics. Oh joy, thanks mom and dad. Turns out depression can run in families, so if your great-grandparents passed down more than just their good looks, you might have inherited a higher risk of depression too. Yay for that family heirloom. Then there's biology. Your brain, this super complex machine, sometimes doesn't feel like producing enough serotonin or dopamine. The chemicals that regulate your mood. It's like your brain decided to go on a serotonin strike and didn't even bother to leave a memo. And of course, there's life itself, throwing curveballs like a breakup, job loss, or a global pandemic, because why not? If you're already genetically or biologically prone to depression, one stressful event can trigger it, like a villainous mastermind waiting for the perfect moment to strike. So you're starting to suspect this isn't just your run-of-the-mill bad day, and you're ready to get answers. Welcome to the thrilling world of getting diagnosed. First things first, you'll sit down with a therapist or doctor, and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, kind of like a detective piecing together clues to figure out if you're dealing with depression or something else. And trust me, they'll leave no stone unturned. They might also do a physical exam to make sure your thyroid isn't the real culprit here, because surprise, thyroid issues can masquerade as depression. Once they rule out the physical stuff, they'll dive into the mental stuff, maybe giving you a little quiz like the PHQ-9. It's not as fun as a BuzzFeed personality quiz, but hey, it's way more important. If you've been feeling the blues for at least 2 weeks and you're checking off several of depression's greatest hits, congratulations. You might officially be dealing with major depressive disorder, MDD. It's like being diagnosed with an unwanted houseguest. But hey, knowledge is power, and now you know what you're up against. Speaking of MDD, let's talk about its grumpier, long-lost cousin dysthymia, or persistent depressive disorder. While MDD is like a hurricane that crashes into your life and leaves everything in shambles, dysthymia is more like a never-ending drizzle. It's not intense, but it's there, all the time. With MDD, you're hit hard. You can barely function, and everything feels impossibly heavy. But with dysthymia, you're still able to get through the day. It just feels like you're dragging a ball and chain everywhere you go. You might think, well, at least it's not as bad as MDD, but trust me, living with dysthymia for years can wear you down in ways you didn't even know were possible. So, whether it's MDD storming into your life, or dysthymia hanging around like a gray cloud that refuses to budge, both are serious, and both need attention. The longer you ignore them, the worse they'll get. Now let's talk about seasonal affective disorder, SAD. Because what's depression without a fun little seasonal twist? SAD is like your brain decided to sync up with the weather. When the days get shorter and the sun decides to take a break for winter, your mood goes right along with it. Isn't that just the best? It's not just the winter blues though. SAD is real depression that shows up like clockwork when the seasons change. It's as if your brain's serotonin factory decided to go on holiday right when you need it the most. Suddenly, all you want to do is hibernate, eat carbs like they're going out of style, and avoid people like they're contagious. The good news? SAD usually lifts when spring rolls around and the sun decides to grace us with its presence again. But that doesn't mean you have to suffer through the dark months. There are treatments like light therapy that can help trick your brain into thinking the sun never left. Alright, now for the part you've been waiting for, how do we get rid of this uninvited guest? Depression isn't unbeatable. You've got a whole toolbox of treatments at your disposal. First up, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Think of CBT as brain training. It helps you identify and challenge all the negative thoughts that depression feeds on. So when your brain says, "I'm worthless," CBT steps in and says, "Hold up. Let's think about this for a second." It's like having a mental coach helping you rewire your brain's defeatist attitude. Then there's medication. Antidepressants like SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, work behind the scenes, balancing the chemicals in your brain. They're not an instant fix, but they can help bring some much-needed stability to your mental health. Think of them as backup troops in your battle against depression. And if that's not enough, there are more hardcore options like electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, and ketamine infusions. Yep, I said ketamine. Who knew a party drug could turn out to be a lifeline for people with treatment-resistant depression? Let's dive deeper into CBT, the mental boot camp for depression. Your brain, it's been running on outdated negative programming. CBT is here to give it a much-needed software update. Depression loves to twist your thoughts into the worst possible versions of themselves. Got a bad grade? Depression says you're a failure and you'll never succeed at anything. But CBT jumps in and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. One bad grade doesn't define your entire life. It teaches you to catch those negative thoughts, break them down, and replace them with more rational, helpful ones. It's not about slapping a smiley face on everything and pretending you're happy. It's about retraining your brain to stop being so dramatic all the time. Over time, CBT helps you think more clearly, and that's when depression starts to lose its grip. Here's the question everyone wants to know. Can depression just go away. The short answer? Nope. Depression isn't the kind of problem that fixes itself. It's not like a bad haircut that just grows out. If left untreated, depression usually sticks around, getting worse and worse over time. The longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to escape from its clutches. But here's the good news. Depression is treatable. You don't have to live with it forever. Therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, they all work together to push back the dark cloud. So no, don't sit around waiting for it to pass. Take action. The sooner you get help, the sooner you can start feeling like yourself again. So, how long does depression last? Well, if you're lucky and catch it early, short-term depression, like an episode of MDD, can last just a few months with treatment. Without treatment, get comfortable because it can hang around for much, much longer. Depression is like that house guest who doesn't know when to leave. The longer you let it crash on your mental couch, the more at home it feels. And then there's dysthymia, which sticks around for 2 years or more. Imagine 2 years of living in a constant emotional drizzle. It's not a torrential downpour, but it's enough to make everything feel gray and damp. Long story short, depression is stubborn, but with the right help, you can kick it out. Let's not forget the power of lifestyle changes, the unsung hero in the fight against depression. No, hitting the gym won't magically cure your depression, but regular exercise can boost those feel-good chemicals in your brain. Hello, endorphins. It's like giving your brain a little pep talk. Your diet plays a role too. Foods rich in omega-3s, like salmon and walnuts, are good for your brain, while a steady diet of junk food, not so much. Eating better won't make depression disappear, but it can definitely help you feel more stable. And don't even get me started on sleep. Depression loves to screw with your sleep schedule, but having a consistent bedtime and wake-up time can make a big difference. It's boring advice, but trust me, sleeping well is half the battle. So, what if it's not you dealing with depression, but someone you care about? Here's your game plan. Be there for them, but don't be a fixer. Depression isn't something you can fix with a pep talk. Telling someone to just cheer up is like telling someone stuck in quicksand to just get out. It's not helpful. Instead, listen. Let them talk about what they're going through without jumping in with advice. Encourage them to seek help, but don't push. And most importantly, offer practical support. Sometimes just helping out with day-to-day stuff, like cooking a meal or running an errand, can make a world of difference for someone who's struggling. Patience, my friend. It's going to take time, but your support can make a huge impact. Let's talk about antidepressants, those little pills that can help balance your brain's chemicals. They're not a magic cure, but they can make a big difference. The most common ones are SSRIs, which help your brain hold on to serotonin, aka your mood regulator. But like any medication, they come with side effects. You might get nausea because why not add stomach issues to the mix? Insomnia, oh great, now you're awake at 3 a.m. again. And sometimes even weight gain or dry mouth because clearly your body wanted to keep things interesting. But here's the deal, most side effects go away after the first few weeks. And with the right antidepressant, you can start to feel like yourself again. So don't give up if the first one doesn't work. There are plenty of options to try. Sometimes, despite your best efforts, depression doesn't budge. It's called treatment-resistant depression, and it's about as fun as it sounds. But don't throw in the towel just yet. There are still options. Electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, might sound scary, but it's actually one of the most effective treatments for severe depression. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain. And if that doesn't appeal to you, there's transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, a non-invasive treatment that uses magnets to stimulate your brain. Oh, and let's not forget ketamine. Yep, that's right, ketamine, the party drug, is now being used to treat depression. Who knew? Depression doesn't just mess with your mood, it seeps into every part of your life. At work or school you can't focus, and everything feels impossible. Your productivity plummets, and you start missing deadlines or falling behind, which only makes you feel worse. Hello, vicious cycle. In your personal life it's just as rough. Depression can make you withdraw from friends and family, turning you into a ghost of your former self. Even when people try to help, you might push them away because, let's face it, depression makes you feel like you're a burden. And let's not even talk about self-care. Brushing your teeth or taking a shower feels like running a marathon. Depression takes everything out of you, and then some. Here's where things get real. Suicidal thoughts are the darkest part of depression. It's like depression whispers in your ear. You know, things would be a lot easier if you weren't around. These thoughts can feel overwhelming, but they're not permanent. There is help. If you or someone you know is having suicidal thoughts, act now. The warning signs, talking about death, withdrawing from loved ones, or giving away prized possessions. Sometimes people even seem happier right before they plan to act, which is terrifying. If you see any of these signs, don't wait. Contact a mental health professional, a suicide hotline, or emergency services. This is serious, but with the right help, people can and do recover. Depression doesn't care how old you are. It hits people of all ages, but it shows up in different ways depending on where you are in life. In children and teens, depression often looks like irritability, mood swings, or a sudden drop in school performance. They might not have the words to explain what's going on, so it shows up in their behavior instead. For adults, depression is often tied to stress, work, relationships, money. You're juggling a million things, and then depression comes in and says, you know what? Let's drop all those balls you're trying to keep in the air. In seniors, depression is often overlooked because people chalk it up to old age. But guess what? Feeling hopeless isn't a normal part of aging, and it shouldn't be ignored. Can you stop depression from ever happening? Well, it's not that simple. You can't slap a no-entry sign on your brain and expect depression to stay away forever, but you can lower your risk by taking care of yourself. Building strong social connections can help, because having a support system makes a huge difference. Managing stress through mindfulness, yoga, or meditation can also help keep you grounded. And of course, exercise and a healthy diet play a role. Basically, take care of your brain the same way you take care of your body. And if you notice yourself slipping into a low mood, don't wait. Get help before things spiral out of control. Depression isn't just in your head, it's in your body too. One of the most common physical symptoms of depression is fatigue. And I don't mean I could use a nap tired. I mean exhausted to the core no matter how much sleep you get. Then there are the headaches, stomach issues, and random aches and pains. Depression can cause physical pain that doesn't have a clear medical explanation, because why wouldn't your brain throw that into the mix, right? And don't forget, depression also weakens your immune system, making you more likely to catch every cold that comes your way. It's a whole body experience and not the fun kind. Okay, so we've covered the whole ugly truth about depression. But the most important part is knowing where to get help, because, surprise, you don't have to do this alone. Talk to your primary care doctor. They can help you figure out if what you're feeling is depression and connect you to a mental health professional. Find a therapist. Therapy is one of the most effective treatments for depression. A licensed therapist can help you explore options like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or other forms of talk therapy. Consider medication. If therapy isn't enough, your doctor might recommend antidepressants. Don't be afraid to ask questions about side effects and how long they'll take to work. Call a hotline. If you're in crisis or having suicidal thoughts, please reach out. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK 8255 or text HELLO to 741741 for immediate support. Join a support group. Sometimes it helps to know you're not the only one going through this. There are local and online support groups where you can connect with others who get it. Try online therapy. If face-to-face therapy feels intimidating, platforms like BetterHelp or Talkspace offer therapy from the comfort of your home. Remember, depression is treatable. You don't have to carry this burden by yourself. The sooner you reach out, the sooner you can start feeling better. You're not alone, and there's always a way forward, even if it doesn't feel like it right now.